gold revaluation and bond issuance monetization thing, you're going to need to know exactly what you have. So is there gold in Fort Knox? Of course there is. I'm sure there is. Is it all the U.S.'s gold? Has it been leased and, sold out into the global market? Who has a title of the gold? Well, I guess whoever owns whoever has the gold has it, the pieces kind of fit together. If you're going to actually monetize the gold, as the Secretary of the Treasury said, then you need to know how much gold you actually have.
President Donald Trump has ordered an official audit of the U.S. gold reserves at Fort Knox, reigniting questions about the nation's gold holdings and the possibility of a historic monetary shift. We hope everything's fine with Fort Knox, but we're going to go to make sure the gold is there, Trump told reporters aboard Air Force One on Wednesday. The decision follows growing speculation about large gold transfers into the United States and renewed calls for transparency regarding the country's gold reserves. CraigHemke of TF Metals report suggests that the Trump administration could take an unprecedented step by thoroughly auditing Fort Knox. Knowing exactly how much gold is available would be essential if a gold revaluation and bond issuance monetization are on the horizon. While Hemke acknowledges that gold is stored at Fort Knox, he raises concerns about ownership. Does all of it belong to the U.S., or has some been leased out into the global market? The Fort Knox Bullion Depository, officially established in 1936, has long symbolized financial security. According to the U.S. Treasury Department, the facility holds 147,341,858.382 troy ounces of gold. However, conspiracy theories have swirled about what lies inside its vaults for decades. A significant portion of the gold in Fort Knox has a controversial history. During the Great Depression, President Franklin D. Roosevelt issued Executive Order 6102 in 1933, making private gold ownership illegal. Americans were forced to sell their gold to the government at $20.67 per troy ounce. Hemke also highlights concerns over the quality of the gold in Fort Knox. Much of it consists of coin melt gold, gold confiscated in the 1930s and melted down into 400-ounce bars. Unlike the 99.99% pure gold bars commonly traded in Shanghai and other global markets, most of the Fort Knox gold is only 90% pure. Let's delve into the video to gain further insights. Before we begin, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell icon to stay updated with the latest content.
Yeah, how do you figure, because this has been talked about lots of times. And when they run Trump's first Secretary of Treasury, Mnuchin, in there in about 2017, and took some black and white photos of him holding gold bars as if that meant anything. I've been there. So, you read Congress people who should have the power to go to Gold Knox are denied access, and the full audit, I think, hasn't been done in about 70 years. So we don't know what's there. Now, Trump, we'll see, but he's done other things that are like, wow, they really going to release all the JFK files? Stuff like that. So, that's some stuff that's, no other president has ever even discussed doing. So maybe they really will go in. And if, and frankly, if this bond issuance monetization thing, you're going to need to know exactly what you have. So is there gold in Fort Knox? Of course there is. I'm sure there is. Is it all the U.S.'s gold? Has it been leased and, sold out into the global market? Who has a title of the gold? Well, I guess whoever owns whoever has the gold has it, you got it first. The other part of it, though, that I mentioned earlier is the overstating of it. Most of the gold, at least in Fort Knox, or really in most of the U.S. gold reserves, are what's called the coin melt variety. I mentioned the confiscation earlier, right? And back in the 30s. That's where a lot of this gold came from. And so all the gold was collected and then melted down and then poured into the kind of standard issue 400-ounce bricks. Well, the problem is a lot of that coin melt stuff is not the 4.9 standard. The shiny kilo bars you see, when we talk about what's going on in Shanghai and other parts of the world, those are 4.9s, 99.99% pure gold. Okay. The bars in Fort Knox are 90% primarily because they're all that coin melt stuff. So even if we do have 8,133 metric tons, by the time you sift through all that, is the gold that's actually there overstated by 10%? It's not all coin melt. so to say it's 8,100 metric tons it's not maybe necessarily 7,400 metric tons by the time you bring it up to full purity, but it might be more like 76 or 7,700. You see what I'm getting at? The pieces kind of fit together. If you're going to actually monetize the gold, as the Secretary of the Treasury said, then you need to know how much gold you actually have. So therefore, you're going to be onshoring and bringing all this gold back. The U.S. was a net importer last month from the U.K., from Switzerland, from Singapore. Every place that you get gold has been coming into the U.S. Ahead of the tariffs? Or is it ahead of getting it all back on shore because we're going to monetize, we're going to find out but we got to find out what we have first. It's a possibility maybe it is just a tariff. Maybe it is. And we're all just making a mountain out of nothing. But again, you look at all these things, if and when the time comes a few months from now that they actually do audit and they do have a number, and then all of a sudden it's announced sometime that they're going to revalue gold to X and issue these bonds, everybody else is going to sit back, on Bloomberg and CNBC and go, damn, how did we miss that? While people like you and I are sitting here, speculating and talking about it now.
Revaluing U.S. gold reserves may seem attractive under debt ceiling constraints, but such a move would have significant consequences for the financial system. According to Wrights and ICAP, it could increase liquidity and extend the Federal Reserve's balance sheet unwind. The Treasury has the authority to pledge its physical gold holdings to the Federal Reserve in exchange for cash. A proposal previously discussed in 2023 suggests revaluing gold reserves from the outdated Bretton Woods price of $42.22 per ounce to current market levels. This adjustment would raise the collateral value of the Treasury's gold stockpile from approximately $11 billion to around $750 billion. CraigHemke pointed to an Oval Office press conference on February 3rd, where former President Trump introduced the new Treasury Secretary, Scott, while signing executive orders. During the event, Scott hinted at potential plans to monetize U.S. assets. Hemke believes this statement raises questions about which assets the government might leverage, with gold being a strong possibility. Now let's redirect our attention to a video.
Pink Paper Financial Times. This is now 4 weeks ago or so, where they said so much gold is leaving London that there are now delivery delays of up to 4 to 8 weeks. Now you're supposed to be able to get a delivery in 2 or 3 days. So if it was anything other than gold and all of a sudden it's 4 to 8 weeks, people say, well, that's a default. You promised me this, at a certain time period. You're telling me it's this long. And so that started getting people's attention, right? And then there was like an impromptu little news conference in the Oval Office on, I think it was the 3rd of February, where Trump is sitting down signing executive orders. And to his right is the new Secretary of the Treasury, Bessent? I don't even know how they pronounce his name yet because he's so new. And Trump says, hey, Scott's, we're going to be doing some things. And Scott's got some words on that. And Scott kind of, camera goes over to him. And he says, yeah, we're looking at ways to monetize assets that we have on the balance sheet. Any balance sheet's got assets and liabilities, and U.S. sure has a lot of liabilities, 36 trillion of them. So we got some assets. We're going to try to monetize them. And we go, well, okay, what's an asset that the U.S. has? Well, one of them's gold. And then you look at all this flow of metal that is so significant that it's disrupted this just-in-time delivery that the LBMA and, London operates on. Well, why are we onshoring all this gold? Maybe we're looking to monetize the gold that the U.S. has. And then another step down that path is, well, how much does the U.S. really have? We tell everybody we got 8,133 metric tons. Do we have all of that? What kind of form is that gold in? All these things, all these questions are starting to get asked. And so it seems to me, Charlotte, that there is, again, just started with the election of Trump, right? I mean, Trump didn't start talking about, we're going to put on some kind of EU tariff or something in the middle of December. Why all of a sudden gold start moving higher? So you start connecting some of these dots, and it seems like that's where we're headed. We got to know how much gold there is. They might try to revalue it to some newer level than what it's been valued at since 1933. And then they'll try to, and maybe they'll, I'm going on and on and on here, but there is a lady by the name of Judy Shelton. I don't know if you've ever spoken with her, but She's written a number of books. Her big idea is that the U.S. should issue 50-year treasury bonds that are somehow backed or indexed to gold with the principal. And if you do that, you keep the interest rate on that 50-year debt really low.
Public interest in U.S. gold reserves has been reignited as gold emerges as a hot commodity on Wall Street, with prices surging over 40% in the past year and 10% year-to-date, outpacing major American stock indexes. Amid growing concerns over government debt and inflation, investors are increasingly turning to gold as a safe haven asset. The debate over Fort Knox's gold remains unresolved, with renewed scrutiny fueled by Trump's remarks, social media discussions, and past inquiries from lawmakers, keeping one of America's most closely guarded secrets in the spotlight. Do you believe the U.S. government should conduct a full audit of its gold reserves at Fort Knox? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. If you found this content helpful, give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to stay updated. Thank you for being a part of this journey with us.